Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Thursday, July 9th, 2020. This is your daily Buckeye Fix. I'm Tom Orr, and today I'm joined by Tony Gerdeman. He's the lead beat writer for Buckeye Scoop. Wednesday night, I was out at the park coaching my daughter's softball game, minding my own business, and all of a sudden my phone started blowing up in my pocket. 40-something text messages in 10 minutes, which is never a great sign that something good is going on. And in this case, yet again, it was not a good sign. Tony, Ohio State sent out a press release Wednesday evening. Can you sort of explain what that said and what it means sort of in the short term for the Ohio State football program?
Yeah, Ohio State has paused all of their on-campus voluntary workouts for all of the sports that were working at this point, which were 7 different teams, starting with the men's and women's basketball team, the field hockey team, the football team, obviously the men's and women's soccer, and the women's volleyball team have all been, as the release says, paused. The workouts have been halted for now due to a number of student athletes testing positive for COVID-19. As to what that number is, we don't know, but we know that these are all located at the WAC and the Shoemaker complex, which is a combined building essentially, and they share workout facilities and weight rooms and things of that nature. So this most recent period of testing came back with some positives, and so they just shut it down. And we'll see where that goes from there. But as of right now, you assume they're well, we don't assume. We know the players and the athletes are going to be quarantined for now. You have to think that the buildings are going to get the once, twice, thrice over in terms of all of the sterilization again. And now we wait for basically the restart, if there's going to be one.
Yeah, you mentioned that we don't know. Ohio State just said it was a number of players tested positive. Our Alex Gleitman of BuckeyeScoop.com had made a post on our board. He has a source that says it's a small number of cases, so we don't, especially involving the football team. We don't know if that's 1 or 3 or 7 or 10. What constitutes small at this point is a little bit up in the air. Clemson had 37 cases relatively early in their return, so it doesn't sound like it's anything on that order of magnitude, but we don't know exactly what the number is. You made a good point on the board earlier Wednesday evening. Given the timing involved in all of this, this is actually a relatively easy time to shut things down. This is not automatically a sign that things have gone terribly, terribly wrong.
Yeah, with mandatory workouts scheduled to start next week, and this being later in the week now, it's pretty easy for them to just, let's shut it down. Let's get everything cleaned and get everything sorted, and just take, as the release says, take a pause basically and just take a breath, because next week is when the mandatory workouts start. So I don't think it's it's a big deal, but it also kind of makes sense that they would be this cautious with the most important thing starting next week, which goes back to when the NCAA's chief medical officer, when he was asked last week, what are the key dates? And he said July 13th, which is when teams will start getting back to their mandatory workouts. And so that's really the key time to keep an eye on it. If things get shut down after that, that's more significant than things getting shut down here. Remember, they have protocols in place for positive tests. Right now, it's easiest to just shut things down. And they're still following those protocols for those players who test positive. But at some point, and that point probably being when the mandatory workouts start, when somebody tests positive, you just remove them and then you have to continue moving forward. That is what the plan has been. So at some point, you have to follow through with the plan, or else you've just been wasting your time and hoping things would just, hopefully we never have to use this plan, and knowing all the while that, we're never going to use this plan. We're just going to shut down. And I don't think that's what they've spent their time doing.
Yeah. I mean, if the goal of all this is get it back to 0 at the time, whatever the number is right now, it's more than 0. We know that. So if you get it back to 0 at the time that you're starting the mandatory workouts, or you have no one who's ill or has the virus in them in the building at the time you start those workouts, then potentially you can keep it at 0. It's very hard to keep it at 0 when you start with 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever that number is. Ohio State has been handling this a little bit differently than a lot of other schools have. They are not releasing any numbers of players who have tested positive. The line is that they, releasing that could lead people to uncover the identities of players who have tested positive. They have also not had anyone speak to the media in more than a month. And, I'm signed up for a number of different emails from the Big Ten. So I get emails from the Penn State Media Relations Department, the Michigan Media Relations Department. So I'm not on James Franklin's press conference every week, but I generally will know, hey, James Franklin's having a press conference or whatever. Penn State has had multiple players and coaches speak with the media pretty much every week since players got back on campus a month ago. Ohio State has been radio silence. We were there on June 7th, I think, at the WAC. The first day players came back, and we didn't talk to anyone that day. We have not spoken to anyone since then. It's been over a month since we've spoken to anyone in an Ohio State, any sort of official capacity at Ohio State. The silence on those fronts, on both of those fronts, make it hard to know exactly how much of a precautionary measure this is versus, a massive outbreak. And again, Alex Gleitman's sources are saying relatively small number. But you spoke with an Ohio State spokesman who confirmed there was at least one positive test on the team. Have they released any other information on anything, including when we might know more about anything?
No, and they have not. And you would assume with this kind of news that in the next few days we would speak with athletic director Gene Smith or Ryan Day or somebody, because it has been a long time since we have spoken with anybody about what's going on at Ohio State. And now we know there are things going on. And we were told that they would never tell us about positive tests. And the only reason they had to was because they shut down voluntary workouts. And, even you and I can do that kind of math. We can put that 2 and 2 together. The idea that not wanting to release the number of athletes who tested positive, because then you could do process of elimination and things of that nature. You can still do that by who doesn't show up, but it's also not like anybody is standing around the building counting who's going in and who's going out. Michigan released that they had 2 players test positive out of their 120 or 130 that they tested. I doubt that. I haven't seen anybody going through and trying to figure out who that is by process of elimination or checking temperatures randomly throughout the campus or seeing who's there, because obviously those people who have tested positive would be in quarantine. So it's that's their process, that's their policy. They don't like to give out information, but we're going to have to find out something. And whether it's Gene Smith telling us, I don't even know if it has to be a number, but let's talk to somebody. Let us ask some questions. Let them get some information out. I think right now there's so much. I don't want to say confusion. I would say some disagreements about information in the age that we live in right now. And I think it would be good for Ohio State to clear some air in terms of how things are going and how far they're going to go. Are they, what's coming forward? Because like I said, next week it begins workouts, the not the voluntary, the mandatory. And are you planning to still do that? And when does that start? And what happens if players test positive? Because when we asked Gene Smith that back in the spring, the thought then was, well, you just remove them because we know that's going to happen, and then you continue on playing the season. And so it would be nice to know that, if you get another couple tests, are you shutting down, or are you finally actualizing the process that you've put in place with your medical experts and the team of doctors that you're relying on to put your protocols in motion?
Well, if and when we hear something from Ohio State, we will let you know. We will obviously be continuing to follow this story and the whole story of the 2020 Ohio State football season, however it may look. We will be following that at Buckeye Scoop. Today is also Thursday, so this is a Bill Green chat day on the Ask the Insiders board. That is always a really fun day. You should hop on there right now. They usually start opening that up very early in the morning, and he will sit there and answer questions all day. That's actually a lot of fun. A lot of our staff members, Gerd included, will hop on there just from time to time. I'll be on there from time to time. Alex Gleitman, Mark Givler, all of our staff will be on there. We'll just, we'll hop in, answer a few questions, chime in on some stuff if we have some insight into any different topics, because we'll talk Ohio State football. We'll talk, professional sports. We'll talk golf. We'll talk barbecue, whatever you want to talk about. We have someone there to talk to you about it and answer questions. It's usually several hundred posts long on that thread during the course of the day. So a lot of fun stuff there. And yeah, and there's also some news today. So we'll be continuing to follow that as well.
Yeah.
So Tony, thank you for joining us. Make sure you check out all of our great podcasts on the Buckeye Scoop Podcast Network. You can find those on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. Just search Buckeye Scoop to find all of those. And you can make sure you subscribe to each of those and also leave us a rating or review. That helps us reach new listeners. Thank you guys for listening. Have a great day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.